welcome to A Gem of a Secret podcast. My name's Donna.
My name is Coco Gem Holiday.
How you doing tonight, Coco?
I am feeling absolutely excited over the fact that we got to interact with so many of y'all last week.
Yes, it was so great meeting you and being in a sober space and performing for the first time in months.
Yeah, and like hearing your stories, like that was kind of cool. It was just really nice to be able to connect with people on a human level versus just you all listening to our incredibly annoying voices on a podcast.
Yeah. You know, who knows? Maybe we'll do it again sometime.
Yeah, absolutely.
At that very venue.
Yeah, specifically. Donna, what are you what are you wearing this evening?
I am just dressed as a giant pleaser heel. Because I aim to please.
Oh, that's funny. So we both went in that same frame of mind.
Uh-huh.
I'm dressed as a large French fry because I'm trying to fry you up.
No. Good try, though.
I did it. I succeeded, and
that was a good fry, though. No, that was terrible too.
Oh.
Gosh, we should just end it all.
People are like, why am I even listening to this? They seem so cool when we met them
We're
last
canceled
week.
for that right now. I just canceled us.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, that's the end, everybody.
It's been such a great episode. Actually, Donna brought this up recently. So you said there was, what was that quote that you said to me earlier about canceling?
Oh, okay. So yeah, Contrapoints. She is a very popular YouTuber, trans YouTuber, that she actually got pretty bullied off of YouTube and canceled. And she was talking about how she has experienced sexual assault in her lifetime and internet cancellation on a wide level. And she said the most traumatizing of those two experiences was being canceled.
That is, I've never, okay, so I have been sexually assaulted. From I call it, it's a true sexual assault story, but like it's happenstance, and it was kind of a thing where like there was just so much happening, and I felt like out of control of what was happening and whatever, and I felt violated, and of course, but I have to also admit, because like I wanted to share that with everybody, because I am going to admit being canceled did emotionally feel a lot worse, than that situation, honestly.
Yeah, I think that just, it shows that we need to have a little bit more tact with how we treat one another in the online landscape. I've said it before when we've talked about cancellations on this podcast, and it really is like we're putting someone in the gallows and like throwing tomatoes at them and shaming them online. And we need to really look at what the repercussions of that are.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, because that stuff really hurts. And I know we've talked about canceling a lot on here, but it just, when Donna said, they're like, you should cancel us for that. And I was like, oh yeah, we were talking about that earlier. And that was actually just came to my mind.
Yeah.
And I've really been mulling that over just a little bit.
Yeah.
So this episode, we are going to be talking about just some kind of etiquette things and relationship-y things that were kind of on our mind. And so, when I first moved to this community, there was, I think it was Mixed Bag. Donna was in a show at Mixed Bag hosted by Sequin McQueen. It actually had Brittany on in it, and a few others. I actually remember some of the people she said, and Brittany on is my drag daughter, and Sequin McQueen is one of my closest friends. And Donna just said it was just a really good dressing room, I think is what she was saying. She was like, it was just a really cool vibe. Like, it was a really great dressing room.
Yeah.
And just recently, I was in a brunch at Stag, Takar Campbell Stars brunch, and in the basement, like, the vibes were just super on. And I think that really matters too, about the makeup of cast, sure, but it also is about just the interpersonal connections that you make in this thing, because like I feel like in a dressing room nobody is better than anyone else. Like, we're all, in the sense of like, we're all colleagues, we've all submitted our music. These are like Drag Race. These are the costumes I brought. This is the hair I brought. Every person is zipping everybody up. Every person's like, fanning everybody else, being kind to one another most of the time. Like, dressing rooms tend to mostly usually be a good vibe.
Well, I mean, really the only thing you're competing with the other queens in the dressing room for maybe are like the tips that are out in the audience. But other than that, it's just a chill night, It's not like a pageant backstage where you're competing with one another, and you hear those stories of in the pageant circuit long ago there would be a queen that would leave a razor on another queen's station to imply that she needed to shave her face or shave her chest or something, or
how intimidating would that be?
or like putting stuff in someone's setting powder or something like that, you know, like yeah, that would be intimidating as hell. So, and that's typically not the vibe at like a show though, you know? Like you do have people that are helping out, lending hands, giving bobby pins, and I'm sure even now, even with pageants, you do have those sweethearts that are nice and will help out with things. But...
Yeah. Well, and I have to say, even when the dressing room is off, so like I talked about this about 4 episodes ago about how I was in a show with somebody who had recently canceled me, and I actually didn't spend any time in the dressing room.
No.
Because I didn't want to expose myself to a person who had been emotionally harmful to me. And that was a really uncomfortable experience because I didn't get to have the camaraderie. And yes, I made the choice.
Yeah.
But I did the choice for my own mental health. And so I didn't get to have the camaraderie, and nobody really to help me. In the sense of other drag artists. Like my husband was there, sure. But other drag artists would be like, oh girl, you have a hair out of place. Oh girl, this is,
That's incredibly isolating.
Oh yeah, it was.
Yeah, and for someone who's been doing this for so long and you're used to that camaraderie, that had to feel very off.
It was jarring as hell.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't even imagine.
And, and the thing is, it's... the reason that this subject is super important is just, how we treat each other in these kind of close-knit circles with, the same craft that we're doing. I like to think about it as gymnasts, right? Like a gymnast in the locker room or whatever, getting ready and talking about their craft at this insanely hard thing that you have to practice at and whatever, and just being on this level. And those moments can make it really hard because if the dressing room vibe is off, the show is also off. How we treat each other as a people and the kindness that we have in those relationships are just really, really, really important.
Yeah, for sure. We also wanted to talk about dressing rooms too, just for our audience to know what it's like in a drag dressing room at a show and kind of what's going on and the different experiences that we've had. So I want to ask you, what is one of the worst dressing room experiences you've had?
God, it was probably that one. But, to be honest.
Yeah.
And that kind of sounds... Actually, you know what? I actually think it was...
Yeah.
That one. I've had fights in a dressing room that were not as uncomfortable as that. I
feel like I have too. Honestly, I would, yeah, I don't know.
Well, because, so I remember, when I first started drag, somebody came for me in a dressing room about what I looked like and how I felt. Oh, actually, I also know the other thing, too, about emotional dressing rooms. So, because I used to do drag with my ex-husband, and we would get into, heated arguments in a dressing room before I went on stage. I remember the very first show I ever performed at, and actually, so both of these things happened. The very first show I ever performed at, one of the seasoned queens that was there kind of came for me in my drag and saying, I didn't look good enough. And I only had one wig at the time. I just started. So every performance, I wore the same exact wig, of course.
Yeah.
For that first show. But I remember my ex-husband got stuck into a conversation with one of the experienced queens and missed my second number. And I remember feeling so hurt by that because the second number was one I was really excited about. It was a upbeat, fast number. And I don't know. I just felt really pushed aside, which was uncomfortable. And and I remember that was being probably one of my worst backstage dressing mishaps because of that reason, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and then I guess another one would be, I did have it out with Elliot with, 2 T's in the backstage of CC's.
You never told me about what happened with that.
Yeah, well, I think we might have mentioned on the podcast, but for those of you, because we're getting a lot of people who are now just tuning in who are not listening to every single episode. So pretty much what happened is, so I had canceled, not even intentionally, accidentally canceled Elliot with 2 T's online because she wore a Wiz inspired costume. She was the taxi cab that just didn't pick up black people, and it was kind of a joke in the movie about how they just couldn't catch a cab, because it's kind of like a play on New York, how black people back in the day couldn't catch a cab. So I wrote online that this girl who's always been said as being kind of problematic and a little bit racist, she
dresses as a racist taxi.
And so I get booked in a show with her in Portland. Because me, right? Like that's the most Coco thing I've ever
Because
heard.
why? What else?
What else? So we're in the backstage together, and I actually wanted to have a conversation with her, and I said, "Hey, so I am the because I was the singular point of that very viral cancellation."
Yeah.
And I said, "Hey, I was the single point of starting that Wiz thing, and I just wanted to talk to you about it." And she said to me verbatim, she's like, oh my god, she's like, you guys don't understand that, like, we're real people, and like I got death threats over that. Like, that really messed with my mental health. Like, that was a really horrible thing that happened to me. Like, that was just awful, and blah blah blah, like, just went on and on and on. And I saw her delete comments too about how she basically was telling people just leave her alone, like no, whatever. And I said to her, I didn't forgive her action intentionally. I said basically no one should treat you that way.
Yeah.
Like, period.
Nor did you call for people to treat her
Nor
that way.
did I say that. I was like, and I was like, because honestly, the Drag Race stars, and I do remember talking about this on the podcast, because I'll say the same line again. With Drag Race stars, you can never really get to them.
Yeah.
Like, you can't really, like, they don't really see you because they're so far removed.
Yeah.
And so, I said I never really expected you to see it. I was just commenting on the fact that was just really tone deaf. And then I told her, I said, look, like, I'm sorry you didn't know that per se. Like, I didn't expect it to be this, but like, just recognize, I was like, maybe you could be a little bit more mindful to these things, like, and like, it's not just art form, like, you also have to be like aware. And like, we kind of talked about that a little bit, and like, because even like when I got there, she called my, and it's not even like a problematic term, but coming out of her mouth was weird. She called my hair brandy braids, and like, that's not an offensive term. Like, that's a lot of what us black kids called it because of Moesha. We called them brandy braids. And she's like, oh, I love your brandy braids, and blah blah blah, even though they were twists. And it's just one of those things, if we always say, if you're not invited to the cookout, when you say things that are not normally offensive, sometimes they sound offensive.
Okay, mind you, this is also like coming off of her just calling like some of the queens of color aggressive. There were some microaggressions that happened, and then also having a lot of, apparently Candy Muse had gone on record saying that there were a lot of microaggressions while they were filming coming from her. And then she of course has her friends in Vegas that were backing her up and saying she's not racist, she's just a little tone deaf maybe. But yeah, I don't know. So for this, I mean, we just talked about cancellations and everything. Like,
and I and the thing is, before we have our break, actually, I do want to say this. Like, now that this is actually kind of like a good reflection point for this. Now that I've been canceled by multiple people in this city who don't know crap about me and will make up narratives about me that are half truths or barely, like, not true at all, or just being nasty. There is a difference whenever I would get negative comments when I was on Camp Wanakiki, like, and yes, they weren't cancellations, they were just negative comments. Like, those didn't really affect me because those people didn't know me. Now, I know if a lot of people are like coming after you, it does hurt and whatever. But it is different with local cancellation versus public cancellation because these people do actually kind of know you a little bit.
So it's a little more personal.
It's a little bit more personal, and they're actively doing it to make sure that, honestly, I just feel like people this is going to be problematic, but I believe it's true. I literally believe that people on a local level will hide behind the phrase of accountability when they're canceling you or participating in the cancellation of another person because they ultimately just want you to self-harm or kill yourself. I honestly believe that. Like, because there's nothing they're going to get out of it. They can't go to the cops. They're just like, oh, I'm just trying to let you know what this person did to hold them accountable. But like, no, you're trying to hurt them. Like, but that's honestly what I believe. They really want the person to just be harmed.
Yeah.
I know that's a harsh line, but it's
because
true.
it's so easy to just have a conversation with someone in your community rather than taking it to Facebook, honestly.
Yeah.
It's so easy to do that. It's so easy to take it offline.
Yeah.
Like, why is that? Why is it the first thing you want to do is, like, get a bunch of people against this person? I don't know. It's the most Portland thing ever, honestly. I,
Ever.
I had seen cancellations back in my old Injunction drag days, but not anything to this level.
Oh God, yeah.
Nothing to this level.
And actually, there was a recent drama a couple weeks ago with another entertainer in the community who people aren't necessarily like. That's also a thing. This entertainer's white, so there's not lots of comments coming after them. I do have to actually say that, like, people are talking about this entertainer, but they're not publicly coming for this entertainer. They're not saying things online. And obviously the funny thing is she's also going through it, obviously, because people are talking nasty about her, and she's like, her mental health is taking a dive, and that sucks. And yeah, like, should she have done what she did? Probably not. But like, her cancellation, and she came for some heavy hitters, was nowhere near the level of mine.
Really?
Yeah, like maybe 5 comments, maybe. Like,
Yeah, I think that definitely shows a double standard.
oh, absolutely.
I don't know. I've said it before. You're not a real ally if you are weaponizing a bunch of people against people of color in your own community instead of just trying to like meet your colleagues where they're at and have a productive conversation, especially if they are people of color. And also, let's not like put ally in our bios and like make it like a performative thing.
Oof! Wow,
You know?
that is a wow.
I don't. It's
Wow.
so performative to be like, I'm an ally. Like, show through action, show through action, and don't like announce it for everyone to see. So it's for your ego. You know, I feel like this is where we got into all the trouble with like the Chelsea Hart stuff and Modern Warrior stuff on TikTok. These were people who would proudly label themselves as allies, and now look at Chelsea, practically on the route to becoming an alt-right sympathizer because of the community that turned against them. So look how quickly someone can go from being an ally to being the exact opposite of that.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Stop putting ally in your bio. That is a pretty deep one that I've never actually had the word ally for any cause in my bios or whatever, but I would make a comment, be like, well, as a feminist, blah 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 blah, because I was an idiot.
I think a
in my
better way to
20s.
say it is like, this is a safe space for everyone. Like, safe space. I don't know.
A safe space for
I
everyone.
think
so.
ally is a little bit egocentric too. It's like, okay, what gave you that title? Because that's not something that you bestow upon yourself. It's something that the community that you're supportive of gives to you. It's not something that you give yourself.
I feel like I feel like people, I've actually removed the title woke from people, like, because I feel like they've used it themselves, and I'm like, oh no, baby, you are not woke. And that's the same thing I feel about the term ally. The term, I talk about allies. Okay, so as a bigender person, I call myself an ally to the trans community because I fall under the trans flag as a bigender person. But for a different cause, like women's rights or something like that, I no longer say I'm an ally or those things like that. I do try to just do it through actions because that's more impactful. But I never thought about it, about not doing it because it was performative. That is really eye opening to me.
I think it is. I don't know.
Well, no, I feel like you're right. Like, that's.
I think it feeds your ego more than it does like allowing you to be an open, safe space for people of color.
I feel like
queer people.
I feel like it's not performative. So the term ally, but I do like it when I do see, for my safety, I do like it when I do see them people, and I know some black activists don't feel this way, but like when I see BLM in a profile or something like that, I appreciate that because I know that this profile on TikTok is a safe space.
Yeah.
But yeah, saying I'm an ally does feel, it's kind of interesting. That does feel a little bit performative. Like, wow.
When you bestow that title on yourself, it feels performative to me. I mean,
Wow. Yeah, because you've always shown your allyship with never having to use the word ally. We talk about allies in the sense of like the queer community, like with straight folks, like, with our allies, because that's the way to say somebody who's accepting and inclusive without having a long ass word.
yeah. I also don't want to give myself a whole lot of credit because it's like, like I would be out there doing a lot more if I had the resources and like mental capacity to do so. And I want to keep doing more. I think it's a continual thing to keep proving ourselves as like worthy allies to different marginalized communities. Like you have to keep doing the work, show through action and not through your words.
Well, that's because when you have to consistently, and also like, cause that's a drain, when you have to consistently keep working to have these narratives like further these narratives and these directions and these decisions, it does take a lot of work and it's a lot of drain. Oh gosh, and actually, I need to say it before we do our break. This part. Recently, I went through something that I haven't told Donna about. Quite a few scenarios where I recently went to, because I don't want to bash the event. The event, there was nothing wrong with the event. It just was very, very white. I mean, very white, and like there was a lot of people, and it was super, super white. And I remember feeling a twinge of uncomfortability in a queer space because it was a very, 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 very white event in a queer space. Like normally, like when you're dancing at CC's, even though the crowd is not predominantly, but it's like a really straight crowd, you'll get kind of like a mixture of colors. But like this event, like it was very white. And I remember I went outside with one of the people who work at the bar who's black. And we were talking about it. I was like, did you? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, I was like, I don't want this to be problematic because like gay white men also need their space to like be gay and like make out and like meet and whatever. Like, but it also felt like we talk about this in the bear community a lot, that like black bears and black or bigger people and black gay men in general just like are not necessarily invited to the party sometimes. And that's not saying that the event is inherently racist, but why they're not there is inherently racist. Like if they're not feeling comfortable and welcome, because even I stepped outside. I was like, I feel like I'm the kid being picked last at kickball. Yeah. Like, and even though I'm not trying to like bang any of these dudes, like it was really weird.
Yeah.
It was like, ugh. And it's funny because like I bet those people do like say I'm an ally to the black community or like have the BLM sticker in their profiles and stuff like that. But like then where are your black friends at the party? Like, you know, like ugh. It was it's so weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, goodness. But I should ask you now, Donna, how are you doing this?
I will let you know after this brief break.
Drag Danger Zone is a monthly showcase featuring new and established performers every month, every fourth Thursday at Mississippi Pizza, located at 3552 North Mississippi Avenue. This fun cabaret variety show is hosted by Marla Darling, Valerie DeVille, and DJ Aurora. For ticket info, find us on Instagram at Drag Danger Zone PDX or Facebook at Drag Danger Zone. And get into the zone. The Drag Danger Zone, that is.
It's a podcast with Coco and Dontella podcast. Tune into What They Tell You podcast with Coco and Dontella podcast.
Coco, I am feeling like we might have gone off on a bit of a tangent in the first half of the episode, but I feel like it was a somewhat needed tangent. And yeah.
So let's get back on topic. What is one of your worst backstage things that happened?
I think all of my bad experiences with backstage have been when there's a bar owner involved that is unruly and rude, or going through your bags because they thought that shooters were present at the event, or they come in and then just decide to yell at you because their initials are JB. And this is all Colorado people, by the way. This is no one here in Portland. But yeah, like all my bad experiences were from bar owners that didn't really know how to handle drag shows and would be excessively rude to the queens in the back and cause problems.
That'd be excessively rude.
And that's not to say some of them were always that way. You know,
Yeah.
There was that one night at that one bar that is no longer there that, you know, we just had a big incident happen. And I wanted to tell her, no, I didn't bring any shooters. But this bottle of peppermint schnapps I have in my bag that you just looked through.
Yeah.
I did have that because I was an alcoholic back then. Yes, she was.
Yes, she was. Oh my God, I remember that. That scenario was so triggering. That was actually God, it's just like, it's just gonna keep happening. That is actually the incident that led to my very first, very horrible online public cancellation. Was
Yeah.
that incident actually?
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh God, I wanted to kill myself. Oh my God, there were I'm probably gonna exaggerate, but I think there were over 50 comments on that post. Oh my God, they're
Yeah.
ripping me to shreds.
Yeah.
So that was fun. That was super fun, and that's before online public cancellations became a thing.
Yeah, I mean, it was like right at the beginning of it.
Yeah,
I would say, I think I would say like 2014 is kind of when that stuff took off.
yeah. Oh, that's crazy. What was one of the best dressing room experiences you ever had?
Oh, the most intimidating one I had was at Trax. But that was also really great because, like, I had no idea. Here I'm gonna go name dropping. I'm so stupid. I don't. It was just a really cool experience for me because I had. So Trax was the first gay club I had ever gone to as an out person, and it just felt like a really full circle moment that night because in the dressing room I was also performing with other girls from other regions that had never performed at Trax, and so we were all kind of nervous together and like supporting one another. And then when we got not only like, so at Trax there was like a little backstage before the stage, and Nina Flowers and her husband were back there, and she was like, "You look amazing," and I just want to say like you're gonna do great. Like she talked me up and was like, she could clearly tell I was nervous, but she like was so kind to me and like introduced me to her husband, and it was just a really cool experience. So I think that is probably my favorite.
You ever told me that part.
Yeah, it was like right before I went on stage, but it was probably one of the coolest experiences I've had backstage at a show.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool.
So it got me to be not nervous because that night I was very nervous.
I don't think I remember the best, but actually let's go with intimidating. Intimidating is interesting. Intimidating is an interesting term.
Yeah.
It would have to have been, I think it actually just happened recently, actually. And it's not just because I can't remember them. It's just like, so I was in Long Beach at Hamburger Mary's, and it was Honey Davenport and Pandora Box, and two other entertainers as well. And I just showed up in phase, and so I didn't have like all my stuff or whatever, and I wasn't really in my zone or in my headspace or whatever. But like Pandora was like, "Hey Coco, like you," because like I knew her. She was like, "Hey, like I wanna, like, if you want to like take my last spot," and so I did that gig, and it was actually really cool. But I was super intimidated because it was like, it was a last minute venue. I've always wanted to perform at Hamburger Mary's Long Beach. It's actually been a dream of mine, so check off the bucket list, and that was cool. And so actually, I guess to mirror that, like when I was actually performing on the cruise, because I was hosting that show, that was probably my most intimidating like backstage thing, even though we were kind of all just out there, because like there's all these like Drag Race stars, and Mariah Paris Balenciaga is like gorgeous.
Oh
gosh,
there's
gorgeous.
a reason why she's like mug for days.
Mug for days. And then Darian and everybody, like they're all perfect. They were all perfect, and Pandora wore her walk-in look to her recent season of All Stars, which is that gown that just shimmers and shines and whatever with the long shoulder
very
pads.
iridescent.
I was like, oh my God, these people are just so much prettier than I am.
I mean, I think both of those experiences though say a lot. So like, hey, I know probably not many of you listen to this, but any queen of prominence, any Drag Race girls, like if you're kind to especially a queen like me who's never been on any sort of reality programming and likely never will be, if you're kind to us like small time gals, like you can make a world of difference for us. Because honestly, like having that experience, it's what encouraged me to really perform better, you know?
Yeah.
So I just want everybody to know that even if you are like you have achieved some level of notoriety, like just being kind to some of those queens that are like either starting out or are not quite at the same level of you, it can really make the difference in how they perform and how their night is going. So
yeah,
be kind. Yeah,
be kind to one another,
and thank you for all of those of you that are.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I guess some of the best moment I ever had in a dressing room would usually would normally be when I'm performing around a lot of people I'm actually good friends with.
Yeah.
Like, so whenever, like, me and Natalie and, Natalie Simone and Donatella would be backstage or whatever with, like, good friends.
It was always fun, honestly. Yeah. It was always fun when it was us.
Yeah, just, like, being silly. And then also, like, when we would go out of town together for those bigger shows and, like, just have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Like, that was always really cool. I love traveling for drag. I think it's a really fun experience and whatever. And so, yeah, like, that's actually kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's a little bit more about backstage. What's one thing that you've regretted about any of your own backstage behavior? And
talking
I know, like,
shit. Like, I'll say it. Talking shit, honestly. I don't know. Like, when I drank, I would be very loose-lipped. So if someone was bugging me, then I would probably say something about it. I'm not going to say probably, because I definitely did in the past say stuff about it. But, yeah, probably my worst experience was when I would do stuff like that, because I was drinking and not being very tactful. But I've learned a lot, and for me, it's, like, more so about being professional, and if I'm with friends, having a little bit of fun.
Yeah, and I think mine's actually kind of silly. The thing that I regret is spreading out.
Oh, you lose so much too. I've lost so much drag from spreading out. Yeah.
And what we mean by spreading out, because actually that probably doesn't make sense to people who don't do a lot of drag that listen to this. Spreading out is what I call it when so, like, you know, we all have our, like, suitcases in our bags or whatever, and then, like, you're trying to get ready, and so you kind of start taking things out.
And you choose, like, an area in the dressing room that's kind of your station, even if there's not set aside stations like there is in a traditional dressing room. Yeah.
So literally what happened is, like, I still do kind of to this day. I spread out, like, a lot. Because, like, being a bigger person, my clothes are just bigger.
Yeah.
And so, like, they kind of just start flowing outward, and it just kind of, and I hate spreading. I always regret that, because, like, I take up more space than I should be taking up, and then also if somebody accidentally knocks over my suitcase, it'll take forever to clean up, and it's awkward, and so mine's a little silly. Like, I regret spreading out.
Yeah. Well, and most of the time these dressing rooms are fairly small. Like, a lot of the times these venues that we're performing in don't have a traditional dressing room. It's like the liquor storage closet in the back of the
liquor storage closet.
The smallest, most narrow dressing room I've ever gotten ready in was, like, overtaken by kegs, and, you know, I think there was a rat that scurried across the floor at some point, and there was, like, spilled and broken beer bottles, and it's like, you know, like, that's just kind of, it's what you have to expect when you're performing, is that you're gonna have some dressing rooms that are A, not meant to be dressing rooms, but B, also kind of just small cramped areas.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's just one of those things of, like, being courteous and being kind, and like trying to make it work, and, like, what did somebody say? There was a dressing room recently with, like, a Drag Race star or something like that, who were like, we're all professionals, it's fine, we'll make it work.
Yeah.
We all can deal with a closet, you know, kind of stuff.
Yeah, I would say, honestly, though, too, with another regret, it was probably drinking as much as I drank. And, like, crying in dressing rooms, or just spreading out and being messy. And
you and crying in dressing rooms was always the most annoying part of any evening.
That's where the alcohol would take me. That's where the alcohol would take me. Like, I have different modes. I'm either crying, I would be drunk, like, trying to rage and, like, yell at someone because I felt the most confrontational when I was drinking, and all that liquid courage decided that I needed to have this rage moment right in that moment. So yeah, no, I mean, I obviously have a lot of regrets about how I used to drink and how I used to treat people.
And I think that that's fair, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I think that like, you've grown, obviously, but, like, I do remember some of my favorite moments with you specifically is, like, it would be, like, successful show. Like, remember, there was a point when, like, we were always, like, walking in with bank at each of those shows, like, bank. And we would, like, be like, we'd always do that, like, celebratory shot.
Yeah.
Like that like we would all go like, let's just get one more shot and like, whatever, because we never really paid for our drinks and just like had that job well done. That was always some of my favorite, even though that's on stage.
Yeah.
That was some of my favorite kind of things for backstage between you and I.
Yeah.
Because we did a lot of great work.
Yeah, we did. Mm-hmm. We had a lot of fun.
It was. And it's still fun. It's just fun in different ways now.
Yeah. It is. I definitely, as someone who doesn't drink, though, like, have had to remove myself from a lot of those situations because I feel hypocritical pushing bar sales when I have a binge drinking problem. So that's it's just very different now. It's obviously been a little bit of some time since I've been backstage at a dressing room, but I think something that I always appreciate is just being able to connect with other people and have some meaningful conversations with them. Austin Drag Fest, we got to meet people from all sorts of different backgrounds.
Yeah. And I'm actually headlining that in some capacity here soon, which I'm really excited about. Mm-hmm. Not headlining, I'm being featured. Featured. And featured is where they give me some perks and benefits and whatever like that. But I don't know if I'll actually be able to go because the gas prices are just horrible. And like my return flight, I think, is clocking in around like $400.
Oh my god.
And like the down there flight is like clocking in around like $160. Like it's
yeah.
I don't know if I'll be able to go. But we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So I think that brings us to the end of this episode.
I think so.
The things that we wanted to get
through. We talked about a lot in this episode.
Yeah.
If you want to talk with us about any of the things that you feel that you disagree with, then do so in a polite manner and do so either in our DMs or face to face.
So be on our socials to look at any and all of what we're having. Like follow us on TikTok, follow us on subscribe to our Patreon as well.
Yeah.
Because those things are live now.
Yeah.
And go visit our website for all that information at agemofasecretpodcast.com.
Yep. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
This has been another episode of A Gem of a Secret podcast. The hosts of A Gem of a Secret podcast are Donna and Coco Gem Holiday. You can follow Donna at Donatella_Mysecrets on Instagram.
You may follow Coco Gem Holiday at Coco Gem Holiday on Instagram. Original music by Touche Douche and Party Favors. You can follow them respectively at Touche Likes Beef and Party Favors Music on Instagram. For more content, follow them online at www.agemofasecretpodcast.com. That is www.agemofasecretpodcast.com.